Hello, 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 hello. It's good to see you. Say hello.
Welcome to the Huskies Hockey Podcast. Weldie and Andrew here to recap another weekend of Husky hockey action. As we had overall a really pleasant weekend for the Huskies against the Bulldogs, where the men went ahead split at home, but women picked up a big 5 out of 6 points on the weekend at Amsoil, which will break down all of the games, both of the series, and kind of where we feel about the team as they go into the kind of the key stretch of the season here in January. But I had a kind of, I wouldn't say a revelation of sorts, but I went to the game on Saturday. Overall, really good atmosphere, I thought, for the game. But I went to dugout, met up with some friends prior to the game. My daughter during the afternoon had a hockey game in Long Prairie for the River Blades. Ended up winning 6-2. So way to go, Clara, who you heard her in the open. And by far the coldest ice rink I've ever been in. And apparently it was only the last couple of years that they got heat into that farmhouse. So it was a very cold day. So I was excited to kind of warm up, and I went back to the dugout, and I haven't had any variation of buffalo in a long time. Right. So I've always been kind of a standard, just hairy buffalo. I like, you don't need to give me the frills. You don't need to sell me on anything more than just here's all the booze. That's all the delivery that I really need. Right. Well, first off, let's go back. What is, like, do you have a preferred buffalo? Did you have a preferred buffalo when you were up at when you were up in college?
No. Yeah, I think we've been over this before. I'm not quite sure what's in it exactly, and I'm not necessarily looking to find out. So I would have had maybe, certainly less than 5 in my life, and I don't know if I've had more than the standard one.
Okay, gotcha. I was a big dirty buffalo. I was a big buffalo on the rag, and then this time some buddies, Dunkel, shout out, had a tropical buffalo. So I was like, yeah, I haven't had that in about a decade. So I went ahead, had a tropical buffalo. Oh man, that is sweet. And I was not expecting the punch of sugar that kind of came with that. And it's just one of those things that you kind of black out, so to speak, from my college years, is how much sugar comes into some of those drinks. But it knocked me back probably a little bit more than the alcohol was. You know, it's as you get older, you try to cut some of that stuff out of your diet a little bit more, you know, and it definitely was a kind of a wake up call for me to have a tropical buffalo. Probably, like, again, my first in like a decade, I would say.
I'm looking at their menu on their website. They are very cagey about this, the recipe. Signature blend of 4 spirits, OJ and grenadine, offer a deceptively potent treat. I should say so. And it just says original, dirty, white, tropical, and Irish. So I don't know what the spins are exactly on those. I don't have the information to give you a good choice among the 5 that they have listed there.
I would love Anthony Bourdain to come and give a little spiel about the history of the dugout and the Buffaloes.
What's that one with the bar rescue? Maybe they can go
Taffer.
Gold. Yeah, there you go. I would wonder what he would think of the Buffalo concept.
Well, you got to add in more butt funnels, actually, is probably what he would say. He's a big fan of the butt funnel.
Yes, it's the technical term. Yes.
I watch way too much Bar Rescue, and then I always like to find out what happened to the bars afterwards.
There's a bar in town here in Tucson that was featured in an episode. They've kept the name. It's Frozen Cactus, and it's like hockey themed vaguely. They kept the name, but they basically took out everything else. They didn't really care for the experience. But I think it's somewhat contractually obligated to keep the name at least because they're basically getting a free renovation to some degree. Sure. So I think they are kind of stuck with the name, but they basically tried to strip everything else from the show.
You wouldn't want a big mural of Taffer there at the bar. Just the side of the bar, just Taffer next to a butt funnel. I think that's what the people would be clamoring for.
I think so. I think his office is engineered to have a butt funnel naturally in the office.
In the office.
Just a tight squeeze.
Yeah, anyway.
It's not really architecturally sound, but it is a butt funnel.
So do you frequent the Frozen Cactus?
I've been there a couple of times. It was closer to where I previously lived. Now I'm not so close to it, but yeah, I've probably been there a handful of times.
Gotcha. Well, as talking about bars and alcohol, let's kick off the show, shall we?
So we're talking about whiskey today.
Whiskey.
All right, we are heading to Peru for this one, which Peru was in the first batch as well, and it kind of shocked me last time. So I'm kind of excited for this one. This one's kind of a rich, dark color, which piques my interest quite a bit. By the way, shout out to Costco. My wife was there and saw 2 bottles and picked them up for me. And one was the Old Forester 1920, which I haven't had, but I love the 1910. But the 1920 was on sale only for about $43, which is much cheaper than I've seen it in the past. And other stores, I've seen it around 70, 80. So I was very impressed.
Good deal.
So, yeah. I did not expect this type of smell to it.
It was very caramely.
Mm-hmm.
Amber.
Love the color.
Syrupy. It kind of looks like it's thick.
It's not. It's not. This one kind of is a little bit flat for me.
That's a shame.
That's a little bit of a bummer. A little bit of a letdown. Peru was pretty good to me last time. This time, not so much. We're going to go ahead and give this a 6.2. Yeah.
So it's still above average. I mean, drinkable.
It's drinkable, but when you start off with this kind of a rich color, I expected a little bit more of anything, and it's just not there. So
that's a letdown.
Mm-hmm. So let's get into the series then. Bulldogs for the men coming to town. Obviously you had the big line of the Plants and Shagabe, and it was a line that definitely on Friday was kept off the score sheet despite numerous chances there. Shostak was absolutely wonderful in net. Ends up making 42 saves, gets the shutout. Huskies end up winning 6-0. And a little bit of foreshadowing, but I'll get into it now. After the game, he shuts down the net and skates off. I thought, hey, that's a really baller move, but you got to back it up the next day. And I was sitting with our season ticket winners, or our winners, Zamora, who won, and I said, after a celebration like that, you better not get lit up the next night. And sure enough, one shot, one goal happens. And it's like, okay, cool. That didn't take long. I don't know if I believe in the whole quote unquote bulletin board material type situation, but definitely that may be a celebration you want to save to Saturday night. Either way, I like the moxie and I loved it. And after the performance he put out on Friday, it was definitely deserved. And the other thing is that I was listening to the post-game press conference, and Brett Larson didn't kind of shy away about it, that they did get some bounces. They did get some puck luck as well. And I kind of thought like Guyon was put into some tricky situations. I don't think he had a great game anyway, but some kind of weird bounces happened that ended up finding the Huskies 6, and was happy to see some kind of luck go our way. But at any rate, hey, a 6-0 win against a rival, and a team that's so high in the NPI. Definitely you'll take that any day of the week.
Sure will. Moved the Huskies up 3 spots based on that win alone on Friday. They stayed there on Saturday, mostly, even with their loss, which we'll get to, but mostly because the other teams around them also lost as well. So, this was a weekend in which, on the whole, in terms of the NPI, you made a good gain. Still not in the good side of the NPI gate, but getting close. And if you play this kind of high-ranked competition and you win games, this is what's going to happen. And obviously, the 6-0 score might have been a little deceiving. You did have the empty netter and then sort of a garbage goal by Gardner afterwards, kind of a cherry on top. Like Gardner gets the monkey off his back finally with his first goal of the year. And as you mentioned, the shot disparity was significant advantage for Duluth throughout the game. And, St. Cloud had some bounces, the Gross goal in particular. I'm not even sure if that was necessarily a set play with the bounce off the backboards, but as it turned out, clever or not, whether or not it was planned. But they're taking advantage of their chances. It was somewhat of a game like we've seen Duluth win this type of game, maybe not so much 6-0, but capitalizing on fortunate bounces like that. It's nice to win one of those. As you mentioned, Showstack obviously was a big part of it as well. You can tell he's got a lot of confidence at this point. You don't do that celly if you're still a little timid and getting used to the college game. This was big for him, and basically wasn't playing there for about a month. Obviously, the Christmas break played a little bit into it, but Berzins had taken over for 4 straight games. Plus, after Showstack was pulled after the first period back in December against Denver. So you could tell last week in Omaha, he really had something to prove. Came through with a big performance there. And then here was more kind of a resounding performance. Saving breakaways against Max Plant, including on a penalty shot that he sort of forced the hand by, throwing his puck or his stick at the puck.
Sure. When Rumpel does it to Dowd, we don't get a penalty shot, but when Showstack does it, then we call the penalty shot. I get it. I see how it is.
Going way back for that. So
I'm still upset about that.
These are the kinds of plays, though, when it's not going so well for Showstack, it can look not so great. But when he's on his game, this is the kind of style that can play well for the Huskies. You can sort of have your goalie be the engine of offense and momentum. He's the kind of goalie that can do that. Like Berzins isn't a guy that's going to do that. He's more of a calm, steady presence in the net. But that's good. I think that the Huskies have a little bit of both styles with their 2 goaltenders. Showstack, at least these last 2 games, these 2 consecutive games, the Omaha game and this first Duluth game, one of the stars of the game, if not the star of the game. And it's good to see his progression. But yeah, I think that, and Larson said as much in the pregame that I heard on Saturday as well. Kind of pump the brakes about the 6-0. Like, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Duluth played a pretty good game, and we were the beneficiaries of some fortunate puck luck. But as it stands, it doesn't matter. Like, you could squeak out a 2-1 win against Omaha, who's currently the last place team, or beat who was fourth in NPI, Duluth, by 6. They both count the same in the math. And the best thing that I'm seeing from this team is it doesn't seem like this team is ready for a second half slide that we've seen. They're playing, I don't know if you could say the best hockey of the year, but it seems like they're picking up a second wind at the right time. And we haven't seen that in the last couple of years of the Huskies, which have been really defined by second half slides that have gotten worse and more prolonged. So far, the January is going pretty well. You got to keep moving though. It's a thing here, and we can get to Saturday because that's a little bit more to say. But at least from after the Friday night performance, it's hard not to be pretty confident about this team. Maybe not like, hey, this team's definitely going to be a NCAA tournament team, but they are not only able to win games against these kind of high in the NPI teams, but beat them convincingly. This was somewhat of a statement that you win a game like this. It says a little bit more than the comeback against Denver in December. So I was feeling pretty good after Friday night. It was hard not to, and especially because it is Duluth. I mean, a 6-0 score. I was pretty happy about it.
Yep. The Huskies are victorious in 4 of the 6 games so far played in January. And the other 2 games, they had leads. They had a 2-0 lead against Omaha. Before that, to win absolutely pear-shaped. And then they had a 3-2 lead going into the third period on Saturday's game. But then you also talked about the come from behind victory against Denver, 3-1 lead for Denver, end up winning 4-3. So winners of 5 of the last 7. So I do, I would say also if you contrast that also with, kind of the stretch we had earlier in the year, where we swept Anchorage and Bemidji, I would say, yeah, they're playing their best hockey right now. So it's obviously that's incredibly good to see. So just kind of running down the score, Ernest had a goal. I thought Ernest and Rode all weekend. I thought actually they had a lot of jump. I really liked their line. Bernovic, Gross had kind of like you said, the weird one, and then the empty netter as well. Loftus scored, and then Gardner kind of that weird one that in absolute garbage time. So that rounded up the 6-0 victory. Yeah, a little bit of a difference in Saturday's game. 1 shot, 1 goal. Max Plant comes in, his 20th of the season, 12 seconds in, and we're down. And, right off the drop, you could tell Duluth was absolutely ticked. And they came back, and I thought the Huskies were pretty lucky to escape that first period, just down 1-0.
Yeah, again, I mean, we're talking about the good stretch they've had so far in 2026, and one element that's been common among the games so far this calendar year has been avoiding these bad first periods. This was a return to those bad first periods towards the end of the first half of the season. Probably their worst period in 2026 so far. And yeah, I agree that just getting out of there down 1-0, getting outshot 10-3, fortunate that it was just 1-0 at that time. And they're going to need to, I don't really know what the issue is in coming out with first periods like this. And at least they become less common. Like this is the first one of these that we've seen in a little bit. But it's obviously not the best way to start the game, but I thought a good response in the second period, and getting out of that period with a lead. You've got Thorson's goal, a nice snipe. First of all, so that after that first period too, one thing I'm thinking is just the 3 shots on goal, and Duluth decides to go with this Ethan Dahlmeyer backup. I think we mentioned him in the preview show last episode, wondering if perhaps Sandelin's wanting to get him some action because Guyon's going to be out for the Olympics here coming up, and Dahlmeyer seemingly is going to be the go-to guy in his absence. It might have been more so that Guyon had an off night on Friday. I'm not sure if this was a planned appearance for Dahlmeyer or not, but the fact that he did get a start last weekend against Lindenwood in Duluth's non-conference game. So it's not like he was completely cold, but yeah, he's a guy that has only a few appearances this year. It's especially like one of those, like first period, you really want to kind of pepper a goalie like that who hasn't seen the kinds of action against decent teams, decent opponents this year. St. Cloud a little bit of a step up, I'd say, in competition than Lindenwood. So that was kind of a missed opportunity as well. Having Dahlmeyer's job pretty easy in the first period, but I thought the second period response, and we'll get to this with the women's team as well, where they had a really good second period after a listless first period on Saturday as well. St. Cloud, it took them a little bit longer than the women's team to score. Scored twice in the first minute of the second period, but good response. Played the best period of that game by far in that second period. And 3-2, you're getting goals from players that isn't the gross Bernovic Hall triumvirate. It's Thorson, Miettinen, Smolinski. Miettinen, I agree, by the way, that Ernest especially had a really good weekend, and I think that Ernest and Rhodes chemistry is really developed, I thought, in a positive way. Yeah, we were kind of wondering how it is kind of interesting that we talked about this last week about the constant shuffling of lines that Larson's a trademark of Larson, but yet 2 freshmen in Rhode and Ernest, he's really kind of stuck with them throughout the entire season, and I think to good effect because Ernest had the goal on Friday. It's not like they're racking up the kinds of points that makes you turn heads, but at least in the play that we see and the chemistry that we see develop, it is really good to see those 2 clicking. And I thought that they were a dynamic duo throughout the entire season. Miettinen as well, or this entire series, I should say. Miettinen as well, I thought maybe his best series of the year. It's been a weird season for him, injury riddled. Missed 8-9 games early in the season. Took him a while to get on the score sheet. And I thought he was noticeable in a way that he hasn't this season as well this weekend. So it's good to see him. Smolinski as well, who gets the 3rd goal, a nice little passing play there. Did note that it's basically been that first power play unit, and we'll talk about power play because I'd like to, struggled this weekend. One thing that I noticed is that it's Smolinski and Loftus have kind of ascended above Wiley on the depth chart for the power play. They're basically the 2D on their top unit. And again, that's going to change, as we know with Larson, talking about him not really sticking with lines, and that goes for power play situations as well. I thought one of the key parts in that game, after they get the 3-2 lead, then Duluth takes a penalty late in that second period, and St. Cloud has a power play. Probably their best opportunity in terms of cycling the puck and generating chances. I think Miettinen had a good look there that he just kind of backhanded a little bit wide of Dahlmeyer. That was one of those opportunities. You knock a goal in there and make it 4-2 going into the third period, feeling a lot better in that situation. The inability of power play to capitalize on any of their chances on Saturday, and just the one on Friday, and that was kind of when the game was out of reach already. The overall numbers are still pretty good for the power play, but these kind of key situations, you'd think you'd want to do a little bit better than a 1-for-9 on the weekend against a team like Duluth.
I'm happy you brought up the power play because this will kind of tail into another aspect of the weekend. But when you look at, when you're looking at the power play, it lacks some punch. Now, I don't want to take anything obviously away from Minnesota-Duluth, who has a really good penalty kill. But, 1 for 9 is something that you really need to look at. And it's like, okay, clearly something's not working here. I thought, sometimes, especially Friday's game in the first period, or I'm sorry, Saturday's game in the first period too, like some of the passes were just off. And looking at Ingram, who did not play this weekend, and he has 8 assists on the season. 6 of his assists come on the power play. So when you have a guy, you still, even though he hasn't been, putting in the goals, but at the same time, he still has value when it comes to, moving the puck and generating some kind of chances on the power play. And when he's not in the lineup and that aspect is gone, I feel the power play also kind of struggles with that. Now, is it worth it to put him on the roster as well? I don't think he played terribly. We just have to take him for who he is, I guess, at this point, versus what I thought he could be, what he started his career kind of as. But it's just kind of, I think it's kind of a dynamic where he does still see the ice really well and can generate chances, and he makes the right decision on the power play with the puck. And I just felt like there were so many opportunities where just missed chances, or and again, against a goalie that doesn't have a lot of experience, that isn't at the level that Guyan is. But to not generate a lot of chances, not generate a lot of shots, and go 0 for 4 on the power play on Saturday, it's really disheartening to see. Now, that's not the reason why we lost it. That third period is. But still, it is something that to kind of take note of, is like, you got to convert on some of these chances that you get to it, because kind of where the power play is sitting at right now, when we're looking at it at, kind of struggling over the past couple of weekends to get some of these chances, it's kind of painful to watch.
Yeah, and Ingram's played once since the first Denver game. So he didn't play the second Denver game, and he's just played one game in 2026, and that was the first Omaha game, and according to CHN, under 10 minutes of that game. I'm throwing my hands up in the air. I don't know what is up with him. If it's an injury, if it's academics, if it's some combination of the two. Yes, he is not having a great season. And with Gardner off the schneid now, he takes over the mantle of most head-scratching goose egg for the Huskies this year. But even with Gardner, he still would have taken the cake in that category, because he's a guy that's had 20-point seasons his first 2 years, and then something happened. We don't know what happened, but his scoring drought is almost a season's worth of games at this point. And so if he's like the magic elixir to fix this power play, I wouldn't mind it, because they could, like I said, could have used just one on Saturday. And that would have perhaps given you the cushion that Duluth wouldn't have been able to come back in the third period. I don't know. It's like I said, I don't mind I think that Loftus and Smolinski are decent options on the power play. I'm not opposed to them. In fact, I think I probably would prefer them to Wiley if you're talking about quarterback situations on the power play. But
I've been actually really impressed with the progress that both of them have made over the past
Loftus in
4
particular,
or 5
right?
weeks.
I think Loftus is really stepping up in Henriks' absence. I don't know if he'd be getting these opportunities, and I don't know if he'd be getting the bulk of ice time that he's been getting in the last couple of months if it weren't for Henriks' injury. And there's still some defensive miscues from each of these defenders. Wiley in particular kind of stands out. I'm not really sure what that play was behind the net. ill-advised breakout or cycling attempt to Smolinski that was intercepted and led to the Zamplant game winner. It's one thing to say that, Hendricks is probably going to be back within 2 weeks, maybe. I mean, that would be about the timeline that we were given at the time of his injury. But it's one thing if like guys like Joe Belisle were making these kind of glaring mistakes that led to game-winning goals. I mean, this was Wiley. This is your senior number one defenseman, supposedly making a big mistake like that. So it's not like when Hendricks slides in, that's gonna lead to lesser playing time by the Belisles of the world. But as we've mentioned, Wiley makes a bad mistake in this game. Zinger, you can go to any number of episodes and hear my criticisms of him.
Throw a dart at one.
Like Smolinski last weekend in Omaha. I remember there was 2 guys that he sprung for breakaways going back the other way. So there's been defensive leakiness from most of the defenders this year. So it's not like Hendricks is going to come in and save the day, but it is going to bring a reinforcement, because I do think that the margin here is so thin. I think they're really close. It still is not like I don't have the confidence to say that this team definitely is NCAA tournament caliber, because I think that they are just missing a little thing. But I don't think that they're too far off, especially if we can get performances in net, either from Shostak or Berzins. I don't think that we've seen the last of Berzins, and it very well could be the difference of a healthy Hendricks coming back might give you that little bit to push you over the edge. It's just at this point in the season, it's kind of reminding me, it's different stylistically, but this team is kind of reminding me of the 16-17 season. Again, different makeup of the personnel, obviously. Sure. Stylistically, not obviously the bodies itself are different, but a different team in the way that they played. But that year was kind of defined by just the heartbreaking losses. That's when you still played overtime for real, 5-on-5, and it was winner take all overtime. I think it was 5 overtime losses that year. I mean, it was just defined by a lot of close losses. And this year as well, you don't have that same overtime kind of gut punch effect to it. But you look back at any number, 3 or 4 at the very least of games where it's making one mistake too many costs you. And it costs you not only a loss, but like a regulation loss. Can't even get it to overtime to get some sort of NPI benefit from it. You're basically at the point in the season where you flip one loss into a win and you move up into NPI territory. Now, again, we've got 6 weeks left, so it's not like, the selection Sunday is this week and we just need that one extra win here. You're going to still need to play on a better level, more consistently over the course of the last 6 weeks of the season in order to get you safe into the tournament territory. But it is one of those things that I kind of fear that it's just going to be just a little short because of any number of these games where I feel like you've played well enough to at least get it to overtime or even get a regulation win. But it's just falling a little bit short. And this one was one where it's just like 5 minutes to go and it's sort of a nothing play behind the net that Wiley makes a bad decision and you blink and Duluth's up. It was a frustrating way to end that game in that series because you had so much of an opportunity to make a big jump, not only in the NPI, but also in the NCHC standings.
That was like that whole play too was just one of those patented slow motion train wreck. Like you see it happening in slow motion where you see the puck get coughed up and you see a glimpse of the names of the opponents that are on the ice. And you're like, if like something catastrophic has to happen, for Duluth for it not to end up in the back of the net. And sure enough, pretty play. They were able to get it and get the lead. So, and then weren't able to do really anything with the extra attacker. And then Shagabe ends up getting that empty netter. But yeah, Plants, that first line, you can only keep them off for so long. They're able to make their dominance felt, really in those in that game. And yeah, their power play too, I thought looked really good. Our penalty kill, I thought, did a pretty good job of Ben not breaking. They did have that power play goal early in the third, where Ashan with that tripping penalty late with just 7 seconds left to go in the second period. You kind of realize that was going to be kind of the make or break point of the game. Whereas, all right, you've got a 1-goal lead. They're going to have a power play with clean ice. If we survive this, who knows, that might give us the momentum where we can kind of ride that for the rest of the game. But, just, minute and a half later, it's 3-3. And then, they're able to kind of jump on that right at the end. So, but going into the series, you told me from the number 4 team in the NPI that you would get a split at home. And overall, I think a lot of positives came out of that game. A lot of that positives came out of the series. It'll be interesting to see kind of where we're going to be for Denver, who's a little bit sliding as of late, although they did get a big win against North Dakota. But before that, it's kind of some panic in Denver. So, but as we wrap up the series, any final thoughts, or do you want to go right to your pal?
It's just that, playing 4 games, Duluth this year, the first 3, yes, you had the Plant overtime winner in Duluth, some special teams action, but we had said that Duluth series, the series at Amsoil, and then obviously shutting them out on Friday, containing the Plant and Shagabe line on even strength, seemed like that was working well for St. Cloud. This was a game you looked at 4 of the 5 goals scored by a Plant or Shagabe at the empty netter. Callum Arnott gets the other goal, and he's kind of like the 1B player for them. Like, he plays on their power play unit with the Plants as well. So, I mean, their stars drove them to that win. Mm-hmm. And you can call that a one-line team if you want. I think that's fair. But that's got to be a big talking point for any opponent of Duluth's to try to shut down that line. And Ashan had mentioned in the post-game comments to St. Cloud Live that he thought that it was a bad line change to blame for that winner. As you can see the replay that, something happened where, I mean, both Zam Plant, he was left pretty much he was left alone there at the end. So I'm not sure how that exactly happens. Like, you need to get a better organization of your players there. Yes, the Wiley turnover was costly, but made it very costly because you didn't really have the reinforcements back there to defend the Duluth forwards that were camped right out in front of the net. So again, just one of those issues, like you've got to play 60 minutes and also with this team too, like just focusing in on their top players. The way the standings are shaking out, it's not out of the ordinary or not out of the realm possibility that you're going to see Duluth again this season. The formula seems to be there, is at least shut them down to the extent that you can. Obviously, they're uber talented. Max Plant really loves that backhand on breakaways, doesn't he? And we saw how their stars kind of propel them. It's unfortunate that basically they needed those guys to do all the heavy lifting for this team to get him over the hump. And it's just, like I said, it wasn't like frustration, certainly, but it's one of those things where, because I think that St. Cloud, again, you didn't play well in the first period. In the third period, obviously, you didn't score, and Duluth was able to take the lead, turn a 3-2 deficit coming into the third, and come out of there with regulation win. Leaves a bad taste in your mouth, but in the same sense, I don't feel like St. Cloud played terribly this weekend. And kind of agree where I think it was overall positive. And like I said, you moved up 3 spots in the NPI. If you're going to play teams of this caliber, or at least teams, we can have the debate, and we will, about Denver here coming up, how good they are, if they are really indicative of their 10th in NPI rating. But splits against these kind of teams aren't going to kill you. In fact, they're going to help you for the most part. So at some point, you're going to need sweeps to get up, to move up in the math. But at this point, this was a successful weekend in that regard. You improved your standing, and you improved your chances to make the NCAAs on this weekend. It just is frustrating because there could have been even more advancement if you would have sealed the deal there on Saturday.
Yep, very much so. Do you want your power, or you want me to go?
I'm torn a little bit, so why don't you go ahead? I'll give give me a little extra time to think.
All right. You said also with Werner Miettinen, he had a goal and 2 assists there on Saturday's game. It's good to see him kind of get back to where he was. So I was happy with that. He also had an assist. So anytime you're looking at a 4-point weekend, you're going to be smiling at that. Bernovic, goal and assist, Gross. I thought had a solid weekend after maybe a little bit of a, like I said, on against Omaha, a little bit of a lackluster weekend for him. At the same time, I thought Hall, a little bit of an off weekend for him, but obviously it wasn't bad by any means. I already sung the praises of Ernest and Rode. I thought, as a spark plug, I thought they did a really good job. I thought Deshaun as well, minus the penalty. That was at the end of the second. But, overall, just kind of looking at it, sure, he gave up 4 goals in Saturday's game. But, when he ends up, facing 60 some shots on the weekend, 944 save percentage out of that, gets a shutout there on Friday. I thought, we kind of look at that as this is a goalie who is starting to get the confidence. I can't really blame him on any of the goals. Obviously, the 1 seconds in, but that's a snipe from a sniper. So that's going to happen. Backdoor for the game winner on either a bad line change and a bad turnover. But I thought overall, Shostak was just incredibly strong. And have kind of the performance that he did, 944 save percentage again on the weekend. If there's more to that coming up, I'm going to be extremely happy with how the rest of the season and his college career is going to go. So I'm going to go with Shostak. And you were talking earlier about that 16-17 that, you're seeing a little bit of similarities when it comes to it. If it gives me, some seasons like the next 2 seasons that followed,
right?
Sign me up. We're going to be okay. So, and I think a lot of that has to do with Shostak in net. So I think if he keeps riding it and keeps playing like he did this weekend, I think we got a really good place in between the pipes. And I do agree, Berzins, we haven't seen the last of him. I'm not down on Berzins or anyway, but I thought Shostak, he was exceptional over the weekend. So my pal goes to him.
2 weeks in a row for you. He was also my pal last weekend. The Omaha series. And he was definitely a candidate. I mean, you touched on the slamming the door shut. We need if that's going to be a trigger, I would assume, it's the second shutout. I would assume he did not do that after he shut out Vermont earlier in the year. It seemed like it meant a little bit more to him this time around. I'm just wondering if he continues that. And does he have the cojones to do that on the road? He shuts out North Dakota. Is he going to do that at the road?
Oh God, you have to. I want it so bad.
I'd love to see it because that means that he shut out North Dakota on the road. I would just love to see if he's going to do it, but it's a ballsy move. But
how many shutouts at North Dakota have we had ever?
Probably not too many. I think
I'd have to go through the media guide and check.
Farragher may have had one.
I was going to say, did Dunn have one?
Certainly Mike Lee did not.
Certainly not Mike Lee. So
maybe we can do that research when they play at the Ralph, which is like in a month it's like almost exactly a month. We can do that research. We don't want to get too far in the ditch here. I still got to get my POW. I am going to go with Werner. Didn't even realize he had the 4 points. I didn't need that point total to inform me that he had a really good weekend. Just from the eye test, he was, like I said, I thought his best performance overall on the season, in a season that had been somewhat one to forget for him so far. So if we can get him back on track again, talking about Ingram, I think Miettin's his sort of, I don't know, off season before this weekend took second banana to the struggles of Ingram. But I mean, let's not forget that, Mietin was also a 20-point scorer his first 2 seasons. Obviously the injury early in the season had a lot to do with his depressed point total so far this year, but you put it all up. I mean, he's gotten points in 5 of the last 7 games. And we're talking about this team winning 5 of the last 7 games. It's coincided with Mietin sort of, getting back into the lineup, getting back to full health and producing for this team. He's also, a guy not to the gross level of face-off success, but that's a strength for him as well. And so it's good to see him producing in those less apparent in the box score, those little things as well. He's picking up on. So it's good to see him have a good weekend. And again, we can get we're talking about like Rode, who's really developing well as a center. If Gross is having an MVP type season, if we get some more center depth and get a guy like Mietin cooking here too, that just helps out the depth all for the entire team. So I'm going to go with Werner for the first time this season.
Wait, that is also a very good pick. So, and just kind of going back, I was able to look at it really quickly, and yes, you are correct. It was Brian Farringer, 44 save shutout.
Is that the last shutout
victory?
Last shutout for St. Cloud goalie there?
At Ingolstadt, yep.
When let's say that's 2011?
Correct. October 28th, 2011. Random box score time. 4 rip.
Again, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We should save this for the
we should, but
for the North Dakota series.
So
are we doing it? Like who would have scored those goals? Fessler, Hanowski?
There you go. From LeBlanc and Cam Reed.
Can't read. That would have been the year that he left too. So that would have been in his waning days as a Husky. Hanowski, I'll go with the other Little Falls connection.
Did not, but he did get kicked out. 5 minute and a game misconduct for contact to the head. Really?
So they weathered a 5-minute power play to get that shot.
Oh, they weathered 2 5-minute power plays.
Who was the other one?
Because Nick Oliver got one. Actually, Grimaldi and then Cristo actually pretty much. Oh, wow. Oliver got checking from behind at 7:35 of the first period, so he got kicked out. But at 7:48, Grimaldi took a roughing, and then at 10:47, Cristo took a tripping penalty, and then at 11:10, Mario Lamoureux took an interference penalty. So,
they really killed their own power play.
They killed their own power play. Yep. And then defenseman, I guess 2 defensemen actually scored the other 2 goals, depending on where Zabkowicz played.
So Zabkowicz was one.
Yeah. I don't know. He was kind of a floater between forward and defenseman, so I don't know this game which one he played. Probably defenseman.
Kevin Gravel, was he the other?
Nope.
Jensen. I think he would have been.
He had the assist. You're missing an obvious one.
A big one.
Yep. From the blue line that year. Or in the next few years, too. Because it was his freshman year.
It's too early for Prow, right?
Yep.
Is it Prow or yes, it's too early for Prow.
Yes, it's too early. But you have the P right.
Oh, Prochnow. I always forget him. You're always more on top of it. Jensen is the D from that era that stands out as like the stud. Prochnow he was under the radar. He's very good though. So that's 3 of the 4. And then Zapkowitz, Prochnow,
Fessler.
And was there another goal? Was it 4-0? You said?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Novak had the shorthanded empty netter.
Of course. Yeah. He's good for some shorties.
Yeah, he was fast. So anyway, random box score. So I didn't know you said I went with Showstack last week too?
Yeah, we both did.
Oh, geez. God, that's boring for me.
Not against the rules.
Yeah, I suppose, but
we go week by week. They can be the same person every single week if it warrants it. So,
all right, let's switch gears. Let's head on over to Denver. We are taking the trip out to Denver, or not we as in us, but the Huskies are. Facing the Pioneers, who, as I said a little bit earlier in the show, a little bit of a snide after St. Cloud State beat them the last game of December. Ended up going Maine at home lost 5-2 and then a 3-3 tie, and then getting steamrolled at home to Western Michigan. And then got blanked 5-rip at North Dakota on Friday before squeaking out a 3-2 victory there on Saturday, where they were outshot 35-17, only 3 shots for them in the first period. So they have been kind of reeling as of late, but they were able to squeak one out. So it's a Denver team. Arguably, you're getting them at a good time, but Denver is a team always there, kind of in the thick of things at the end, led by, Polkamp, leading the nation in D, I believe, still at 14 goals, 11 assists for 25 points, and also leads the team. Buckberger as well, 21 points, and is their second leading scorer. So it's a little bit of an interesting makeup for the team. Usually they're forwards are, deep, tenacious, and high scoring. A little bit less so here so far this year. Incredibly good on the penalty kill. So our power play, I don't know if we're going to kind of get off on the right foot this time. And their power play is sitting at about 20%. So it's Quentin Miller. They've been riding the freshman goalie for most of the year for a 237 goals against and a 917 save percentage. So, looking at Denver coming up this weekend, what do you kind of see for the Huskies?
Yeah, I mean, you'd think that this is a good time to play Denver because, as you mentioned, they've been scuffling, but I don't know. I don't think this is a team there was never really a great time to play Denver.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you're going to ask me when you want to play Denver, maybe playing them when they're, 1 win out of 7 games, that will probably be the best time to play them. Denver's never a easy place to play for St. Cloud. They won last year. It's basically like a game that Posh stole, if you remember that one. But that was the first time they had won in regulation there in like 9 or 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's never a fun place to play for the Huskies. Like I said, like with Duluth, even though it can feel disappointing how the Saturday game ended, splitting with them, worked just fine in the math. A split, especially on the road. Denver is not as high up as Duluth is in the NPI, but on the road, you get a little bit of a bonus by winning on the road. So a split here, and again, it's kind of dependent on the teams around you in NPI as well, but I think a split would maybe not move you up the 3 spots that the split against Duluth did, but it's something similar to that. You're not going to lose ground, I don't think, if you split at Duluth or excuse me, at Denver. So it's easier said than done, but I think, and again, it's great to see a Friday win in conference. That 6-0 win on Friday was their first such win on a Friday in conference play this season. That just kind of opens up the whole weekend for you, and seeing how they've been playing better right off the bat on Friday nights this so far in 2026. That bodes well for them as well, especially if a team like Denver who's struggling to find their way and struggling offensively. I mean, the 2 top scorers are defensemen. Miller's been pulled prior to this win, which was a good win at the Ralph, but the previous 2 games he was pulled in those games. So, I mean, and St. Cloud has seen him this year, and obviously they came back, big win for the Huskies, the 4-3 comeback in December. I'm wondering too that so Shostak just played the 1 period that weekend, and he was pulled after the first period on Friday. And some of those goals weren't his fault necessarily, but he didn't look so hot in that performance. I'm wondering if we're going to see versions at all this weekend, if that's going to be a plan to play him. It's not like Shostak is red hot right now because he is coming off of a loss, but it would be different like if he's got this 2 straight wins coming into this series. Who would you say? That's a good question I'm coming up with here on the fly. Who would you say starts in net for the Huskies on Friday?
That's a tough one. If I were kind of a betting man, I would go with Shostak.
I think so too.
I look at that as again 944 save percentage on the weekend against a top 5 team in the nation. I think he's earned it. And I think you go in planning on splitting time. I still think having a maybe a 1-2 punch where a 2 does get a third of the starts, I think is still a good mix, because you never know when you want somebody trusted and at least some type of battle ready. You don't want to go in with just one goalie the whole time. So you never know when a toilet's going to get dropped on a foot. So it's a situation here where
no jinxes.
It's Shostak would get my nod here to start for Friday's game.
I think I would agree with that as well. This is around the time of the season where, I don't know, at least you start thinking about riding a goalie. Western Michigan, I'm thinking last year with Slukinski in a row. That sort of got separation. Slukinski started getting every start right around, maybe a little bit later than this, late January, if memory serves correct. So it's one of those things like, hey, if Shostak has the shutout and he rips the net down at Magnus, the bad lighting in that corner too, you got to come back with him on Saturday, right? So you're kind of trying to ride the hot goalie, and that's why I think I would go back with Shostak on Friday. Not that, again, he just lost his last game, and his numbers he's still got a save percentage under 900 for the season. So, and he was kind of humbled by Denver, his one appearance this year. But I think that almost kind of feeds into it too. I think he kind of wants a little bit of a second crack at Denver, prove that 1 period performance was not the real show stack.
Yeah.
Now we've got we're starting to see kind of the full package of what he brings to the table. But yeah, I would not be surprised, if he puts in he gives up 3 goals on Friday, let's say, win or lose. Wouldn't be surprised if Berzins comes back. But yeah, he stands on his head and does another 40 save performance like he did on Friday. Sure, yeah, absolutely go back with him. I think it's that point of the year where you're looking for hot goalies and confidence and that kind of thing too. So I wouldn't see that, and I wouldn't mind seeing two starts from him. But that'll be interesting to see exactly how Larson plays it this weekend. But like I said, I would hope for one win this weekend. It seems greedy to think more than that. Not sure if St. Cloud's at the level of like Western Michigan, who would just walk into Magnus and sweep Denver kind of convincingly in 2 games. But at least I think we saw them beat Denver once already this year, and Denver's a little bit stumbling. Brandon McMorrow's played for the World Juniors. He's out. He broke a finger during the World Juniors. I'm not sure if he's expected back this season, but don't expect him this weekend against the Huskies. I believe he scored in that series earlier in St. Cloud this year. I said they have offensive weapons. It's just they're not exactly lighting the world on fire this year. And so can't take them lightly, obviously. This is a team that, yes, they've been struggling of late, but, it's almost like a sleeping. I don't, by the way, too, I don't think that Denver, yes, they're struggling. They were down to 13th before that win at North Dakota on Saturday. So they're like firmly on the bubble. We're still expecting Denver to make the NCAAs, right?
Yeah, I still am. Just kind of looking at it, it's like I feel like they're going to right the ship. I think Carl eventually, everything's going to fall into place. And Denver's always the team tournament time you never really want to face.
Right.
So I do still expect them kind of in the mix when it's all said and done. What I really want to see, especially out of Friday, I want to see just an aggressive, good first period. And that'll kind of set the tone for the weekend. If we come out lackadaisical, like we'd have in the past, or like we did even against Denver, where, like you said, let in 3 of those goals. It's something where that's, you can't fall behind on this team. You got to be aggressive. You got to stick with it. This team that we have, the Huskies, can beat anybody on any given night. And I think it shows that. But we also are a little bit susceptible to some of these clunkers, obviously leaving points to Vermont and St. Thomas, for instance. So it is kind of, although granted, St. Thomas, as of right now, they're, St. Thomas, Augustana, those CCHA teams are actually pretty solid there, kind of where they're sitting right now. But it's a situation where I think that if we can just be aggressive and really take it to Denver, I really like our chances. But if we kind of stumble right out the gate, it might be a long weekend, especially with our history at Magnus.
Yeah, it'll be tough. The last 2 Fridays have had good first periods. Let's see another one of those. Obviously, the Omaha one didn't end that first period. It started really well. It sort of ended where you started, a 2-2 tie after the 2-0 lead that St. Cloud got. But they had the 2-0 lead against Duluth after the first period. Let's see one of those. Let's pop in. Let's get that 2-0 lead. The anti Kevin Gorg here. You want a 2-0 lead here against Denver. You don't want to just hang in the weeds and be 0-0 as long as you want. This is a team that's better when they're dictating play, and I think they have the horses, at least on the top end, here to match Denver's units at this point in the season. Look at the Gross and Hall and Bernovic. Their forward lines have better point totals than anyone that Denver has. Let's see them assert themselves and make a statement on the road.
Yep, exactly. So we had our winner last week, Eric Z, won the tickets and sent us a picture. So thank you for the picture and using the tickets. So we might as well we got a weekend against series against Miami,
Yes.
where we got a little bit of redemption. What was it? A 6-5 loss in overtime, something.
Correct.
If I remember correctly. So we got some redemption to do and get to it on Saturday. For Saturday, not this coming, but the one after. So we have tickets to give away for that game, and great view of Jason Bryant too. So you can check out all the great PA action as well. But we got a passcode. Maybe we do. Maybe we don't. I don't know. Andrew, you go right ahead, take it away. But let's get your entries in for a free tickets to the Saturday game against Miami.
Yep, that's Saturday, January 31st, 6 p.m. Start time, and 2 tickets right near center ice, premium chairback seats for the chance to get those 2 free tickets.
Yeah, it's very important. Also, by we I mean Andrew. Andrew made it a point too. It's like we're not going to be in those red seats, even though they are the 100 levels. Or we want you to be in style. We want you to be comfortable. We want you to have the extra width, because definitely I need it. But it's a much better viewing experience than sitting on those red seats. So if that's what's keeping you from entering, please don't fret. You got a good line. You get a good view to see what the Jupiter moon line is doing as well. So if you got a chance, you can skirt on down real quick to have a short line for some ice cream. That's always a big selling point too.
Yeah, absolutely. So how to get your hands on those tickets? What we do is we do a drawing. You've got to email our show, the email address for our show, which is Huskies Hockey Podcast at gmail.com. Huskies plural hockey podcast at gmail.com. You want to send us this passcode that I'm going to give you in here in a second by this Sunday. That's January 25th. Call at noon on Sunday, St. Cloud time. Get the passcode in. So we're giving you several days to get your passcode in. Get them in early though. I'd like to know that there's some interest in this. Again,
people chomping at the bit after this episode.
Right. First year that we've done this. If we want to do this more, we won't do it unless we have a healthy interest by our listenership here. So we got Miami. We try to make the passcode kind of relevant to the opponent. Timely. Miami's in the national title game for college football.
They are.
It looks like a pretty good game here. I'm sure by the time this is released, you'll know who won, but it looks like Indiana's they're knocking on the doorstep for some insurance. But Miami, they're hanging tight. I know probably their hockey team is playing second fiddle to their football team, making this big run. We will go with it. I mean, we got to go in the season. So we're going Hurricane. That's for their football team. And, if they can knock off Indiana here in the next 10 minutes of real time, which you already know who won the game, damn the Torpedoes. The passcode is Hurricane. Get that passcode in. Email it to huskieshockeypodcast at gmail.com. Again, we're giving you till Sunday to enter the contest. And again, this will be for next Saturday, the 31st. That's the game time. But get your emails in. Get the passcode emailed over by this Sunday, the 25th, for your chance to win those 2 tickets. And again, thanks for all those who have entered the contest. And please, if you won the tickets before, that doesn't disqualify you from winning it again. Send in your passcode. We like to see a lot of entrants into the drawing. So again, Hurricane, email that in by Sunday, and thank you in advance.
Yep. Also a very underrated drink. I am a fan of Hurricane drink, a mix of light and dark rum. Some OJ, passion fruit, lime, simple syrup, grenadine. I'm actually a big fan of grenadine in my drinks. It's like I've always liked it. Also, like when I was a kid, like the Coke with the grenadine, instead of like cherry Coke. Like that's
some people really hate that.
Who does?
Some people really hate that. Like like, is the cherry Coke just Coke with the cherry syrup, the grenadine? And they're like, no, I don't want it. They'll only drink it off the phone. So people are
those people are just liars or wrong. They're just wrong, actually. And also a very good Bob Dylan song, in my opinion. So
Hurricane is pretty good. Yeah, that's good.
So it's got a kind of cool story back to that. That's probably where my wife will turn off this podcast because she doesn't care for Bob Dylan. So I shouldn't say that. She doesn't care for Bob Dylan singing. She loves it when other people covered the Bob Dylan songs. So if someone else did Hurricane, I bet she would really like it.
Yes, we need to knock some sense into Teresa, and not knock some sense in her. That's a little untoward, but yeah, it's not about the quality of the voice. It's about the passion of the singer itself. So there are some records, especially like the last 20 years. It's almost unlistenable at this point. But
it's pretty bad at this point.
Back in those days, it was effective.
It was a feature.
If not, like
it was a feature, not a bug.
He's not gonna sell out. He's not gonna be an opera singer. He's not gonna be pitch perfect, but effective for what it is.
Oh man! All right, let's head over to the women. Had a great series at Amsoil, and was able to really take 5 of 6 points. Gets the tie 2-2, officially a tie on Saturday. Down 2-0 with about a little more than 4 minutes left to go in the game. And they were able to get to overtime, and then kind of an exciting overtime, but still no goals after overtime. And then the shootout, Carrico stood tall. Goes 6 for 6 in the shootout, and you had Grace Wolf come in with an angle and a nice snipe to get the point for the Huskies, the extra point. So I was riding really high after that, and then we're looking at Saturday's game, and rough first period. Caitlin Kramer scores a couple minutes in. Carrico started both games, and out in Minnesota-Duluth 13-4, outshot shooting St. Cloud, but just 37 seconds in, 2 goals were scored by the Huskies. Zimmerman on the power play, McKillian ends up getting the second one, 2-1 going into the third, and then again McKillian heck of a game, a little bit of a slide on the from a goal scoring aspect over the past couple of games. I think it was like 10 or so games without an actual goal. Her last goal was when she scored 2 against Wisconsin on November 15th. For someone who, started off really well, hasn't been scoring the goals as much, but came up big there with 2 more goals, 3-1, and then Sunderland adds in empty net insurance. Farrell again, another empty netter later on, 5-2 victory there. And I was, incredibly impressed, incredibly happy with really both games, how the Huskies were able to really bounce back. And being down 2-0 late on Friday to a team that has had your number, especially in Amsoil. And then obviously the response there in that second period, putting up 17 shots on Minnesota-Duluth there. And so it's great weekend there. 5 points. Really happy to see, and it really shows that this team can hang with Minnesota-Duluth. And if it's a matchup, if we're able to get there in come playoff time, these two teams match up against each other. It's going to be a good match, and I think that both teams match up. I think the Huskies actually match up pretty well against them.
Indeed, and this series did a lot to improve the standing for St. Cloud. The possibility of them meeting up with Duluth greatly improved based on this weekend. Started the weekend in 7th place, jumped 2 spots, kind of. I mean, now you're tied with Mankato with 17 points, but I think 4th place is a little. I don't think that's necessarily realistic for the Huskies to get into home ice territory. I mean, Duluth has not been playing well. I guess we shouldn't never say never. I suppose they are doing the January junk in memory of Brett Larson not doing it this year for the men's Huskies team. Winless so far in January, and like to keep that streak going. And so, it's perhaps, I guess we shouldn't put it out of the possibility category, but at least like getting to that spot where we thought that the Huskies would be more in that 5th place position, the way that Mankato's kind of been trending down. And again, this is, coming off a weekend where the Huskies didn't look so hot against Ohio State. Now, a lot of teams don't look so hot against the Buckeyes, but this one, there was in both games big momentum swings for the Huskies in that 3rd period late on Friday. We got the men's game going that time, so I've got this on my tablet. It's the same kind of script that we've seen so many times here. 20 straight losses, or 20 straight games without a win, I should say, regulation win for the Huskies coming into this game at Amsoil. And 2-0, it's the same kind of, Duluth's not really racking up the score, but they're doing enough to build a lead. St. Cloud's offense is sputtering, running into, a good goalie, but also their offense was failing to generate, even a bunch of grade A's, but able to pop in a couple of goals. I thought Sidney Lamb had a really good read in the neutral zone to pick off a pass to Spring, Avery Farrell for the breakaway goal that got him off the schneid.
Nice move.
You could tell that was, a big weight off the back of the Huskies just to get that first one past Gascon, who's been such a pest for them in their history with her, and then get a bit of good fortune. I mean, how many times, especially against the Bulldogs, you getting things like goals that are waved off in real time, then get overturned on a long video review? I mean, this typically isn't on the bingo card when the Huskies match up with the Bulldogs, getting kind of fortunate breaks like that. I did think it was the correct call, because I think that the Duluth player initiated the contact that Marie Moran, who should say was playing up front this weekend at the center position, and I thought that she played pretty well. Yeah, and she's right in the middle of that play where, the contact, I think, was initiated by the defender for Duluth, knocks Moran into Gascon, causes her to drop her stick. Pion kind of senses the opportunity that Gascon's out of position, fires it in there, and it survives a video review. I think the biggest, so that was obviously huge, just getting it to overtime. I wasn't 4 minutes to go in the game. I was not thinking that St. Cloud was going to get any points out of that game. Right. And so getting it to overtime is huge, but then getting out of overtime to a shootout, and then Grace Wolf scores in the shootout to give St. Cloud the shootout win, the extra point. You don't get there without Carrico coming up huge several times in that overtime, including a power play at the very end of it, which is huge. I mean, we talk about how we don't really care for the 3-on-3. That all that aside, St. Cloud getting a shootout win. Yes, it's not a win-win, but getting a shootout win there, and the way that they did it by coming back late, staving off a barrage in overtime, depending on Carrico there. And then, yes, it is a shootout win, but you could tell that this team was really motivated by that result. And I thought we saw it. Yes, the first period, we didn't see it on Saturday. But coming out of the locker room, coming into the second period, 2 quick strikes. And then I think from that point on, they were in control of Duluth for the rest of that game. This is a team that's a different feel. I'm sure Adulski, if he was checking in on these results, he's like, this is what I wanted to see against a team like Duluth. I mean, so many frustrations against this UMD team over the years, seeing them in the playoffs basically every year of the Adulski era. And it might be again this year, the way that it's shaping up. I almost kind of expect it. It's good to get a performance like this in your back pocket, because it gives you that confidence, not only the next time you see Duluth, but I think going forward, we'll kind of preview the Gophers who are coming up. That's kind of the thing. Like, it's, we're talking about like the men's team of the Cactus Cup, like those great, opponents that you saw there weren't exactly the best competition, but the thing that it gave you was momentum. It gave you confidence going in to a tougher part of your schedule. This is another one where it's not even just that this was a lesser opponent, Duluth. They're still in NPI territory for the NCAA tournament. This is a good win for the Huskies. This one of their best wins this year on Saturday. But it was, aside from that, it was kind of how they were able to win both games. Mm-hmm. Yes, the one shootout on Friday, but again, coming late comeback, and then just how they played the 2/3, the latter 2/3 on Saturday was really heartening to see. I agree with McCallion. Yeah, it was 9 games. Just checking, nine games since her last goals, that 2-goal performance against the Badgers, and she's kind of like we've talked about like Soriel and Sunderland, who can tend to struggle at times against the top end competition in the WCHA. Like, McCallion is kind of the opposite. You see her 9 goals. I mean, she scored the 1 goal apiece in the Lindenwood series to start the season off. But aside from that, her 7 goals in conference, she's got 2 against the Gophers, 1 against Ohio State, 2 against Wisconsin, and now 2 against Duluth. I mean, those are all 4 tournament teams. It's kind of weird that she goes goalless in the games against the latter half of the WCHA competition. So that's kind of, that gives me a lot of hope going forward with her. She's going to be scoring these big goals in the games that count the most, or at least the opponents that, where the stakes are the highest. That really, and she's a freshman. Like, you can imagine like how she's going to develop in years to come here. So that was really good to see. Again, we'd like to see a little bit more consistency from her, especially not going several games without scoring goals like she has this year. But when she shows up on the score sheet, she scores in bunches, puts up points in bunches. So good to see her performance as well. And again, you got some contributions from players that we don't see in the score sheet all the time. Farrell's kind of a player that she's another one that kind of reserves her biggest goals for big moments. We've seen that from her over the years, but she didn't score this weekend. But I thought Sydney Jackal had a good weekend. I saw her. I just kind of noted her, and she got 1 assist, I suppose. But I saw her being a very active presence, pesty. She kind of got like the Thorson thing going on the women's side, where she's kind of physical and annoys the other team, kind of a gadfly.
I felt that way about Holloway too.
Holloway was good. So yeah, I mean, there was contributions from not just the usual suspects this weekend, but you needed to stand tall with Carrico in net. She's got to take a big part of the praise for this weekend too, because again, I think that overtime performance Saturday might go a little bit differently if overtime goes differently on Friday, and she had to stand tall there, and she did. So yeah, it seems like, again, that's another theme from this team is they'll go as far as Carrico will bring them, and for the 5-point performance for the team this weekend. A lot of that, I think, a lot of the credit goes to Carrico. So excellent. I mean, I can't say enough about not just like a 5-point weekend, but who it was against, where it was, the fact that
how it happened,
the fact that we might see another rendition of this rivalry play out pretty soon here in the playoffs again. It's good to see. And this was another kind of bounce back weekend after last weekend against the Buckeyes. This could have been another, and then you've got the Gophers coming up here. This could have been sort of the middle of the end, so to speak, of the season. But they sort of, now they're on the right side and moving in the right direction. And you need to do that. You need to get as much momentum as possible heading into this Gopher series, because it's going to be another big one. But it makes it that much more kind of exciting to look forward to as well.
I want to kind of go back to that play on Friday for the game tying goal. Pion scores it from a bad angle, just kind of throws it on net. But kind of, as you say, that you had Moran kind of crash in the net, gets a little bit tripped up from the Duluth player who kind of bumps into Gascon. But I think also, situations like that, I'm always like, I agree. I think it should have been a goal, but like, I don't know, flip a coin kind of with the refs. But I wonder if Gascon's decision as well to try to pick up her stick instead of getting back to the net had anything to do with that as well. Because if you look at the video, it's like, because I think she had enough time to get back into her crease and make that save if she would have, but she decided to try to pick up her stick. Maybe she thought the puck was further into the corner than it actually was. And Pion, with just a very heads up play, throws it on net, and it's able to kind of squeak in. But those two goals in minute 15, minute 20 or so, that's kind of how I looked at it. And the longer that review went on, the more that I thought that this goal was going to end up counting, as it was initially right away waved off.
Yeah, like I said, I thought it was the correct call. Showstack, we're talking about him a lot this game. He wouldn't have been looking to pick up his stick. He likes to play without a stick. He's seemingly, it's kind of like an extra accessory for him at times. So he would have been just fine.
I've always wondered, like, because obviously, you're looking at, a defenseman breaks his stick, right? The common thought is the forward gives it to the defense, right? And if the goalie loses his stick, the defense gives it, their stick to the goalie. And then you might have an assembly line there where, you kind of migrate your sticks backwards towards the goal. But I do wonder, and maybe this is just, too big brain of thinking, but like, I don't know, would like if I was a coach, I would go see sessions of practice where my goalie wouldn't have a stick at all and just learn how to play without his stick. And that way I feel like just having your players who can actually clear the puck be without a stick would be more important than a goalie to have their stick. So I don't know. I just kind of, something I think about now and then. It's like, that's the common thinking, because that's what we've always done. But maybe that's not the best way to go about it. Maybe, play without it for the goalie, and then have the people who can actually clear the puck more effectively, have them keep their sticks.
Yeah, it might have just been like a muscle memory kind of thing. Like, I think too that I don't think she realized that Pion was right there, ready to take a shot on net. Except it was a broken play, so it's one of those kind of fortunate plays. Talked about the men's team getting some bounces. I mean, that was a fortunate play because it sort of developed out of nothing. But like I said, heads up to Pion that the opportunity was there to sneak one by her, even if it was going to be waved off in real time. It's good to see that they had to make and that's tough. Like for for the officials to reverse their own call on a play like that, where it's not like it's not 100% cut and dry, even though I thought it was the correct call. It's tough for them to be humble and admit that they made the wrong call in real time. So yeah, we'll take it, because obviously that got you into the overtime session. And then again, I don't think the whole weekend develops the same without that great overtime performance from Crico. I mean, we've seen better. I mean, we saw like that Wisconsin overtime period where the Huskies were dictating most of that play. It was kind of surprising, like how much they were controlling play against Wisconsin. This was a performance. I don't know if they just had ran out of gas that game, but they were barely touching the puck in that overtime session. And then you had the penalty. It was sort of in the last minute or so. It was an abbreviated power play 4-on-3 for Duluth, but you were really kind of hanging on for dear life. Couple of grade A's. I think that's kind of Duluth's, and we've seen this from them in years past. I think they're struggling similar to the Huskies, where they're built from the back end out. And, you know, if they score, if they have one more goal in them, you know, on Friday, it doesn't get to overtime. Like, so it's nice to see at least and aside from that Kramer line, the top line of theirs, it seemed like they were pretty thin offensively as well. So it was good to see that at least that sort of formula, which we've seen kind of bite the Huskies, it sort of bit the Bulldogs this time around. But yeah, I mean, 5 out of 6 points for the Huskies in Amsoil. I mean, I wonder if they've had as good of a weekend there ever. I would probably bet that they haven't, based on how good Duluth has been historically. And like I said, how St. Cloud hadn't won in regulation there since Eric Rude was the women's coach. So been a long time, but a lot, I think, of the process that St. Cloud has been putting in here, a lot of that showed up on Saturday, especially in those last two periods. And really good to see. And now the test gets that much bigger.
Yeah, very much so. So this puts St. Cloud State at 17 in the MPI. So still pretty far off the pace. But, you know, looking, and they've got the number one strength of schedule, but, you know, you'll look up and, you know, to the top of the NPI, you know, obviously we got Wisconsin, Ohio State, you got coming up Minnesota, with the next game, obviously conference foes, Penn State, and then sitting at number 5 right now was UConn. And UConn, you split with them earlier in the season. So, I mean, you know, you've got some favorable results. Or at least you got, you know, from that aspect, you got a favorable result right there. Yeah, Ohio State, that series wasn't the best. Wisconsin, yeah, you ended up getting the tie there, and you had some chances as well. But I mean, you had your chances against Ohio State, and so it's like you've kind of been there and been on the cusp. I hope this is kind of the turning point from them. Sure, Minnesota-Duluth a little bit further down in the MPI, but like we've said, like even Adulski said last season, it's kind of had that mental block that they've had in their head about trying to show that you are good enough to play with these teams. And like, if more and more of these results kind of end up, you know, switching over to the Huskies getting their way, I do think the sky's the limit for this team, even though their record might not show it here as of right now.
Indeed. Yeah, it looks like, so CHN, by the way, has women's NPI, and it's showing me that they're actually really? 16th in NPI, but they're like tied exact. They have the same NPI rating as Mercyhurst does. Now, there was a game tonight. Yale beat Providence on Monday night here as we're recording, and I'm wondering if just a couple of percentage points flipped. I mean, they're essentially tied for 16th, if you want to look at it that way. Since we are the Huskies Hockey Podcast, we'll say a tie there is that they're in 16th. They're tied for 16th. Perfect. They're not moved 17th. Up. So we've moved up. We're moving on up, which is good.
Thanks, USCHO. Giving me wrong info. Jeez.
Yeah, USCHO still says 17, but I think because Colgate was in the mix there, and maybe, again, we're talking fractions of a point here. But that Yale win tonight must have shuffled some things around in the NPI. It's still going to take a little bit for the Huskies to really get into serious position into
Look at
the
us going to
NPI.
sit here and trust Woden.
Yeah, I had to make sure that wasn't that when I clicked on the rating that wasn't the men's version, but no, it is, because Mercyhurst is not 16th in the men's NPI. I can tell you that for sure. No, but before they'll have a chance here to get to move on up against the Gopher series, but we do have a POW.
We do have a POW
this past weekend.
It is also tricky looking, because they'll have MPI and they'll have Cratch. But like on the schedule for the women's, but it'll have like the men's corresponding NPI and Cratch. So it's obviously a Woden bug. But this is also kind of where I learned that I'm a little surprised that the Huskies men's team is 13 in Cratch.
I mean, they're 11th in Cratch on the women's side. So Cratch, in either men and women, Cratch loves the Huskies. It loves it more than the NPI does. So let's adopt Cratch officially.
Let's adopt, hashtag adopt Cratch. So, all right, yeah, POW. I have to go with my line of thinking. My line of thought of Showstack had a 944 save percentage. Over the weekend, Greco had a 950 save percentage. 6 for 6 in the shootout as well. Blanking all of Minnesota-Duluth when it comes to that. I thought she was incredibly good, and we're definitely going to miss her when she's gone to Finland for the Olympics, or Italy playing for Finland in the Olympics. It'll be interesting to see with her and Ahola who does get the lion's share of those starts. But it's definitely when I'm looking at everything, and I'm looking at the weekend. I think it definitely starts out with her. The 2 points that we got, I think, or on Friday, I think were the result of her play. Again, 40 some saves, 6 for 6 in the shootout. It can't get much better than that. Stood tall, especially that first period. Only kind of escaping that period when you did. Only down 1-0 after that first period on Saturday. Big weekend for her, and that is why I'm giving it to Amelia Carrico.
Like I mentioned, I thought, McKaylian obviously stood out on Saturday. I liked Jackal's play, like I mentioned earlier. As far as a role player goes, I think she can be effective, especially like defending top team or like the top lines for opponents. We've seen that kind of become a role for her as well. So there were some. I thought Grace Wolf was good. Aside from the shootout goal, I thought she played stellar defensively this weekend. Like you said, Moran, who's played most of the year on the point this year, moving up to forward. A little bit of some line shuffling we saw from Yellow Suo this weekend. And hey, 5 out of 6 points, he did something right. So I thought this was one of those weekends where it's difficult to kind of sort through, because there's a lot of different candidates, lots of contributions from players that chipped in for this 5-point weekend. I have to agree with you, though. Carrico, I think, is the main reason that you were as successful as you were this weekend, and got to bank these performances, especially like against these top end teams, expecting her to play both these games against the Gophers this weekend, because we're not going to be with her for at least a couple of weeks here pretty soon, which is going to be a big blow for this team. But you can see the value that she has for this team. Mentioned when she came back and the struggles of the team when she was out. Just look at the record. Look at her stats among the nation leaders in save percentage. This team is just a better team when she's between the pipes. And this one was one of those weekends where those 5 points a lot of those, big percentage of those points are attributed to Carrico, and especially I think that overtime session in the 3-on-3 on Friday, not just to get you a tie in NPI for that game, but I think it kind of helped you. It propelled you into that Saturday performance as well too. And the first period on Saturday, which, forwards didn't come out very strong. Carrico, yes, gives up the early goal, but she had to stand strong to keep that just a 1-goal deficit. So I'm going to go with Carrico.
That could have gone out of hand.
Yep. Yeah.
So, all right, big tilt against the Gophers here coming up. Home series. You got Friday and Saturday. Friday at home at 6:00, and then Saturday at Ritter, 2:00 Central. So it is obviously a big test. Earlier this year, you had at Minnesota 4-1 loss, and then a 5-3 loss there at home, but you're even looking at that 4-1 loss. There was an empty netter there in the third, but it was really about 45 seconds or 40 seconds that really did the Huskies in. It was a tie game, and then two quick goals, one from Abby Murphy and one from Sarah Paul. In the second period, that kind of was the difference in that one. And unfortunately, the Gophers skate away with that victory. And then even the 5-3 returning match at the National Hockey Center, where it was 3-3 going into the third period. And then it was a quick goal there in the third period, where we were, end up being behind. They added one a few minutes later. So, unfortunately, that earlier two losses to Minnesota, but I do wonder that, if this team, it's a little bit of a different team right now, Minnesota, but at the same time is absolutely rolling. Granted, they haven't been tested really too much, but have scored a ton, to say the least, including 14-2 victory over Sacred Heart, 11-3 over Minnesota State. So they clearly didn't take too kindly to getting swept by Minnesota State earlier in the season, and then again 11-1 against Bemidji. So they've been scoring in droves, as they say. 10-game winning streak, I believe, if my count is correct. 8-game winning streak.
Close.
Since that sweep at the hands of Minnesota State. So it's with Minnesota, it's a high scoring team that is led with the nation's leading scorer, with Abby Murphy, 33 goals, 25 assists, 58 points in 24 games, 2.42 points per game, has taken 173 shots so far. Obviously, we'll rag on Woden and whatever chip is, but 94 chip, I think that's good. I guess I don't really know what it is. But you do your best to contain Abby Murphy. They got 6 other players that are averaging a point per game. So they're a deadly team, top to bottom, high scoring team. So obviously the Huskies going to have their work cut out for them here in the series.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, Murphy. So leading the country in goals scored, points per game, shots, and of course penalty minutes.
And of course,
with 55, leading the country in that tally as well.
Only by 2.
So only by 2. It's a tight race there.
It's a tight race.
Penalty minutes. And what I think our over-under was 90 on the season. Probably is going to be under because she's going to be at the Olympics. But she's really making up as far as her point production goes. She's making up for the lost time that she'll have here coming up with just some absurd point totals. I mean, just in 2026, she's had an 8-point weekend, a 7-point weekend, and a 9-point weekend. And 4 games this year that the Gophers have scored at least 11 goals in a game. So Yeah, they've scored the most goals as a team this year, and yeah, you can say it's racking up goals against Sacred Heart and Bemidji a couple of times. 9-goal performance, 11-goal performance against the Beavers in 2 games this year. But it's the kind of scoring that we're just not used to at St. Cloud's perspective. 5 goals against Duluth, and 2 of those being empty netters. That's high watermark for this Huskies team. I can't imagine breaking double digits. So, but I think the games earlier this season, we're not going to get any sort of boat races like that this weekend. At least I hope so. I mean, I think the Gophers are playing probably their best hockey this year. Again, the competition hasn't been the best, although Mankato, when they played them, we're still in NPI position. They've dropped off since then, maybe in large part because of being humiliated there in that, especially that 11-3 loss. The one at Ritter was pretty tight, but it's a tough team. It's going to be a big test.
And that's really both of those series, actually, when you look at it, for Minnesota State and then Bemidji as well. But it was an 11-3 beating, and then that was followed up by only a 4-3 win, and they had to. They were down 3-2 as well. So they're able to put up the points, but they're kind of able to have a game where it's going to be a little bit closer. 11-1 against Bemidji, but the Friday game, the one before that, a 5-3 victory, and they were up 5-0 before they let Bemidji kind of come back. Maybe a little bit closer than. Or the score made it closer than it was. It looks like they got their 3rd goal with only about 34 seconds left to go in the game to cut the lead only to 2. But it's, I think it's definitely a situation. Whereas, they can put up the points, but they've also got a 7-2 loss against Wisconsin. So it's a situation that if the Huskies do play solid. Abby Murphy as well had probably one of the sickest assists that I've seen that made the rounds, where she flipped the puck up to herself, batted it down through the defender, and then able to get a one-handed shovel pass over to the streaking winger to end up burying it. Just an absolutely insane play to pull off in a college hockey game. If you haven't seen that assist, please do yourself a favor and see so, because it was something to see. But I think it's a situation here. I would imagine that Abby Murphy touches the ice. You're going to have Grace Wolf out there, or Urela out there. And that's assuming that they're going to play. We're going to assume all these players are going to play, even though the Olympics are coming up. I believe, either this weekend or next weekend is going to be the last weekend for a lot of these Olympians to be with their teams before they shuffle off to Italy. So, but it's going to be I think it's going to be a fun series, and it's going to be kind of a good benchmark to see after Duluth if we can make kind of that next step against that top tier of the WCHA. If we're able to make that and be competitive with Minnesota, where we might be kind of a scary team here coming down the stretch, which is something Yellow Suo kind of predicted at the beginning of the year, that this is going to be the time where we play our best hockey. So this is a good weekend to really prove that.
Yeah, and the one wild card I'm seeing from in this series, other than the series that they played earlier this season, is Carrico, where the home game St. Cloud had, that was the game that Carrico got hurt. I was actually in attendance that game. About halfway through the game, she had already had 30 saves in that game. And it's a lopsided shot advantage for the Gophers that game, but still 3-3 after 2. But I'm wondering, like, if Carrico is in that entirety of that game, if that goes a little bit differently. Again, I think the Gophers were all playing them, but the Huskies were playing pretty well themselves. Knock on wood that Carrico is going to be healthy this entire weekend. I would expect her to get both games, especially considering the Olympics are coming up for her, and St. Cloud's going to be without her services for a couple of weeks. right now, this is the biggest series, right, for the Huskies. Biggest opportunity for them to make a jump, and it's obviously it's difficult to predict that they're gonna take a game here. Look at their overall record historically against the Gophers. History is against the Huskies at least, but I'm seeing a healthy Carrico, and again, let's hope that this momentum that they've got coming into this series, maybe I don't know, maybe the Gophers all fat and giggly after beating up on Bemidji and Sacred Heart and these teams like that. Perhaps they go into the series not expecting the kind of buzzsaw that I think the Huskies can bring. I would expect physicality in this series, especially with a player like Murphy, who's going to bring it herself. But I think you hit it nail on the head with Wolf. She was really the key player, or at least defender, that I'm pretty sure Yellow Sue and the coaching staff were making a concerted effort to have Wolf on the ice as much as possible whenever Murphy was out there. And Murphy, scored her goals. She made her presence felt in that series earlier in the season against these two teams. But I thought they contained her to the extent that they could have. It was really the secondary scoring that came through for the Gophers in that third period in St. Cloud to win that game for them. Again, coming into that third period tied. And it's not just that top line for them. Part of the reason they're scoring these they have these prolific game, goal totals in these games recently, is because they're getting some good depth scoring as well. So it's obviously going to be a test. I don't know where you'd put like the Gophers and the Gophers and Ohio State are like a different style. Like they're both elite teams, obviously, but Ohio State a little bit more defensive minded. Minnesota more of a run and gun style. Obviously the talent advantage is going to be with the Gophers, but I think the Huskies can play with them. And if they've got a little bit of extra juice coming out of this 5-point weekend, again, it's not like I'm saying, yeah, for sure. I don't have confidence necessarily that they're going to come out of this weekend with a win, but I feel like they're at least going to give the Gophers a good test and keep a game close, keep a game tight, have Carrico play like she can. Would not be surprised we sneak out of here with a victory this weekend in one of these games.
Carrico did get both games last weekend, so no kind of last hurrah for JoJo in Amsoil, her former team, but she did do an Instagram takeover where she did announce that. She did tease that there was going to be more dump and change in the future. So really? I got my alerts set up for more dump and change, both on YouTube and the Twitter account. So hopefully a little bit more will come from that, because I do like that. Looks like Avery Myers is back in St. Cloud. So I know she had some time. So maybe they're back recording, which is something I'd be really excited to see. So,
absolutely, and she'll probably have some good fodder for the show if we're expecting her to take over the starting spot during the Olympics when Carrico's gone. So maybe there will be some good opportunities for some vlogs and some behind the scenes. Like it.
Yep. So with that, I think it's safe to assume as well, Carrico starts both games. I think especially with her going to the Olympics, right? I'd be shocked if JoJo gets a start here this weekend.
Yeah, you gotta give yourself the best chance to win, and she's coming off a double POW weekend. Just leave it at that. Leave it to us. You got double POW, so
double POW. Excuse me. I think step aside, Yellow Sue. I think we got this. So,
correct.
We touched on it. I didn't touch on it enough, I guess. So I kind of want to go back to the line shuffling. Kind of, what were your thoughts with that? With Moran at center, that really surprised me. But yeah, I thought she did pretty well. I'm a little surprised you got some of our freshmen here that are, I thought they would have a little bit more games played, especially coming in at this point with the Olympics kind of coming up. Like, we've got, Siskinen has 7 games, but, Lily Erickson, also from Roseau alongside with Peyton Remick, who has played, I believe, every game this year. But Lily Erickson has only played twice. We're going to be down a couple of forwards with, I guess really, the only forward Vogt Zimmerman. But I'd be a little bit surprised that Lily Erickson, especially, hasn't played maybe a little bit more throughout the season. So I do wonder if this is going to be her chance for some openings coming up over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, we'll see how they play it in terms of personnel when the Olympics come. Goaltending might be the most key position that you're going to be losing just based on how well Carrico has played this year. But that decision's just much easier just because you've got 2 other goalies, really. 3, I suppose, with Haley Lawrence, but we don't expect her to get any action. Probably going to be Joe back mostly, and maybe we see a Hugendam performance as well mixed in. But yeah, defense is you're losing Urela, and that might be, in terms of the back end, it might be your biggest, or in terms of the non-goaltenders. I mean, Zimmerman's been really good too in the last couple of months as well. But so I don't mind just for your original question, I don't mind the shuffling. It's not like this team is a offensive juggernaut. Moran's been in a swing role her career here. Mostly played forward last year, was mostly on defense so far this year. But I don't mind seeing her get a little bit of action up front. Bryant was kind of in the same boat last year, was kind of moving back and forth, been mainly at defense this year. So, I mean, again, this coming off that Ohio State weekend, it's okay. I was 1 goal in the weekend against the Buckeyes. Yes, they are an elite defensive team, but I was not opposed to seeing some new looks. And, I don't know if it necessarily worked like a charm, but said the team got out of there with 5 points. Something worked, something clicked.
Yep.
So yeah, I wasn't opposed to seeing it.
Sure enough. So, all right. So as far as my prediction kind of goes, for this weekend against Minnesota, I don't know why, but I feel like we're going to take points this weekend. So I think maybe I think 1 game goes into overtime. But I like how this team played up at Duluth, and I think if we keep kind of playing that way, and we keep getting the goaltending performance, I think we're gonna sneak some points. Maybe it's an overtime loss, but we're gonna sneak something here from Minnesota.
I like how you're thinking. Power play has been a weakness of late. It's been notably lagging for this team. So I'd like to say, and especially when you're mashing up a team of the Gophers caliber, you're probably going to be outshot in these games. You need to take advantage, kind of like how the Farrell goal kind of started things off, or swung the momentum for the Huskies on Friday. You're going to need plays like that, or you're going to need good special teams performances. Yeah, you need to neutralize as much as you can the Gophers power play, or at least, I don't know if you can necessarily say stay out of the box as much as possible, because I think that playing a physical game against the Gophers is going to be part of the game plan. But just playing smart, limiting your power play opportunities for the opponent, shutting down their power play as much as you can, and then being opportunistic on the chances that you get. That's kind of going to be, I think, the formula. Now that's, again, I think they're going to be facing a real tough test here. It's, and again, a different style than what they've seen the last 2 weekends. More defense heavy with Ohio State and Duluth. They got to be prepared to skate with these Gophers. It's going to be a bit of an adjustment. I would really hope to see that Friday home game is where those points are going to come from. Now, last year they did take a win, got a win out of Ritter, their first ever down there. Also got a home win earlier this season against the Gophers and played the Gophers really tight in all 4 games last year. And you can say the same thing about the 2 games this year as well. Again, tied going into the 3rd period in the home game. It was tied late in the 2nd at Ritter in the 1st game of that home and home. So I think these are going to be tight games. But I think I'll go with you in terms of I'm not going to say a win, but I think that they're going to get a point at least going to overtime in one of these 2 games. And I want to see it obviously on that Friday in St. Cloud. So I'll say the home game, they're going to get some points out of that one. How about that?
Hey, I like your thinking.
You going to go?
I unfortunately am not going to be able to go, but I'll be watching it on TV. I think maybe if it was my movie night, I'd be able to go, but Fridays have been designated movie nights in our household. Right. And it is not my pick. If it was my pick, I'd probably say my movie night is let's go to the hockey game. I would have definitely said that. But sadly, it is not my pick this time. So at least I don't think it is. I'll double check. If it is, then we're definitely going. So. All right. Should we hop on over to questions?
Yes.
All right. First question, Dan Jacobson. Is Guyan still going to be taken by Slovakia after that performance on Friday?
I'm not as up to date on my Slovakia national hockey team as I once was. I would say so. Yes.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, the Slovakian goalies are actually there are none in the NHL or AHL. Right. So
they didn't have many choices available to them.
They don't have many choices. So yeah, does Slovakia still want Guyan? So. But
sounds like Dan Jacobson doesn't want anything to do with Guyan. He's riding Ethan Dahlmeyer from here on out.
Dahlmeyer, the St. Cloud Norseman native.
That's right. Hey, they've got a lot of success with plucking NAHL goalies in the past. Yep. So
yeah, exactly.
Maybe he just got Wally. Maybe Guyan just got Wally pipped.
Yep. Yeah. Right. Exactly. In this day of NIL and after the past weekend, how fearful should I be of another team poaching Showstack? I don't feel you have to really worry about that instance. I think if it would have to take a lot of performance, like you said. I mean, he's still below a 9 save percentage. So it's still. I mean, I think he's still far, but if he strings back some performances like that, yeah, anything transfer portal related, is something that may be a little bit of a concern. So, I feel that I wouldn't be too concerned about it. He's, Showstack was highly recruited out of anywhere and everywhere, and he chose St. Cloud State, I would assume, for a reason. So I would assume he's going to stay.
Yeah, I can't. I don't have any insider information here. So with the portal the way that it is, I mean, I don't think there's any he's definitely not going anywhere.
Yeah,
we can look at history. We can look at Larson's had a good retention rate of guys going, at least impact guys going into the portal. Now, Colin Ralph, perhaps the biggest name that he's lost to the portal. Mm-hmm. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the others that I can think of off the top of my head that they've lost to the portal. I mean, Warren Clark was last year. He was a guy that was kind of not getting playing time here. That's sort of it was not a surprise that he went there. Guys like Brady Zemer, Thomas Rocco. Dominic Bassey was a goalie, and there was one goalie for you. But it's so the kinds of players that he's lost to the portal haven't really been in the big name category with the exception of Ralph. I almost kind of expected more losses last year based on how the team's performance was. So that gives me a little bit more hope. The thing about goalies, though, is weird. The only thing that I could think that might be an issue is how this season plays out. Like if by the end of the season, Shostak is the number one goalie, I don't think he's gone, but then he might have to look at Berzins. Because they're both at a point where they've shown enough. And again, the stats have a little bit of a difference, and Shostak still needs to get his save percentage above 90, I think, to start getting into this conversation. And I think it will. But if we get to the end of the season and there is a definite number one starter that we're going into next season, and one of the two guys is definitely the number one guy, kind of like how Posh was at the end of last year. Like he's your number one guy in your depth chart. Well, then who's ever number two is like, well, do I want to just stay here and play 5 games a year? I've shown that I can play, in a good amount of, a good extended amount of time, and I can play well. I could probably get a starting job somewhere else. So that's what I kind of fear about this is when you're having a even split goaltender situation like you have here, kind of like how we saw with Posh beating out Bassey 2 years ago. Well, then Bassey bolted to St. Lawrence because he probably wasn't going to get the opportunities when Posh had clearly jumped him on the depth chart. So I think goaltending is a bit of a unique situation where you might see one. It's just going to be a luxury that you have 2 starting quality goaltenders who have, 15, 20 games on their NCAA roster or on their NCAA, the back of their baseball card stats, for instance. That's not something that every team is going to have. So there could be a potential flight risk with one of the 2 goalies if that's how it kind of shakes out. If by the end of the season, they're still sort of even split playing time, and that's kind of how they go into next season, well, perhaps both of them stick around if they're both bought into that, sure. But yeah, I don't know. This is the Wild West still. I don't think that there's any sure things. It's not so much that other teams are going to poach these players, but the fact that they're based on how this situation shakes out, if they're on the losing end of a goaltender battle, they could want to see if there's greener pastures somewhere else too. So I don't know. I like the fact that Shostak's playing so well that he's playing himself into number one goalie's territory, which seems like right now that's where he's at, even with the stats, the overall stats probably being in Berzin's favor. But so it's a good, healthy competition to have. And we're still getting used to this portal environment. I did see that they recently announced, NCAA announced that they're shortening the window for the transfer portal. So these kind of decisions are going to be made a little bit more quickly at the end of the season. So I guess we'll see. I have no inside information, and it depends on each player's, I think, specific kind of situation. So we'll see how it plays out, but I'm just glad that we're seeing good performance from him, that, these kind of questions can arise from it.
Yeah, that makes, a lot of sense. And I agree. So looking at, let's see, next question. From Zamora, who gave us also a picture from the seats. So thank you for that. Is it just me, or Saturday did it seem like the Huskies didn't have the jump and tenacity that the Bulldogs did, especially in the SCSUD zone? It seemed like they were waiting for the puck to come to them too often, while the Bulldogs were racing toward the puck and bodying the Huskies or lifting, tying up sticks. I think there was an effort, but they weren't playing like a desperate team, and a sweep would have been so huge in our prospects of making the tournament as an at-large team. I don't know so much if it was the Huskies didn't have the jump that it shows that kind of the difference that top line makes. Because I mean, especially in that third period, and especially on that, that game tying and game winning goals, where it was it was definitely their speed and their forechecking tenacity that really made the difference in causing some of those errors. And it was a situation where that aggressiveness, I don't know if the Huskies kind of took it for granted or it definitely showed that we were a little lackadaisical at times. Now I don't say it was kind of for the whole game. I didn't think we played that poorly on Saturday in trying to get a sweep, but it just kind of shows how quickly things can kind of turn. And I think it was just kind of a broken play in a bad situation. I do think their forecheck was causing us a lot of fits. And that's something in their aggressiveness also on the PK was causing us fits too. So I think that's something that they definitely need to work on here going forward. Because if that's the recipe to beat this team, I think if, the teams like the Denvers and the North Dakotas kind of latch onto that, that's going to be something that is going to be a thorn in our side for the rest of the season.
Yeah. If I thought that this was a performance that lacked a little jump, I didn't notice it because I've seen worse, more lackadaisical performances from this team this season. We've gone through the litany of the Friday night performances in the first half, especially, or at least in conference play. This Saturday performance against Denver, or against Duluth, I should say, wasn't stellar, for instance, in that first period. And it didn't end well either, but there was more energy than they had, in that first period at Duluth on the first game of that series back in November. That first period against Denver at home on the Friday of that series. There's just been, I guess I'll answer the question by saying there's been more noticeable bad performances. That this one didn't quite stack up to that, but again, it's just it's one of those frustrating performances that even if you didn't play very well in that first period, you still had the third period lead. You look at stats of teams with leads going into the third period, they win 90% of those games generally. So it's tough that two of the times this year, that I think the only two times we've had third period leads or a lead after two, and you've not won that game, have both been Duluth games. You had the overtime loss in Duluth, and then this one obviously on Saturday. Tough because you flip those results to a regulation win, probably on the right side of the bubble. So yeah, it's frustrating, but it just shows you just how close this team is. Even if there is a performance that might question or have you question the intensity or energy level, they're still right there. It's basically a 1-goal game too, and so yeah, it's frustrating, but at the same time, at least from my perspective, it didn't leave me so upset with the effort because I think they were right there.
Yep, exactly. So that about does it this episode of the Huskies Hockey Podcast. Thank you as always for listening. Please get that passcode in. I already forgot what it was. So if you did as well, go ahead and start it over and re-listen again. I would appreciate it. I'm Weldie at More Clappers, MOAR, More Clappers. Andrew, you can reach him at
SCSUHHP on X. Also that email address for the show, Huskies Hockey Podcast at gmail.com. Go to the cloud coverage on Substack. I just had a new post up about this past week.
New ice shavings up. Yep.
So hit that up as well. And thanks for all who have who've read and have commented that they have enjoyed those, because I do like putting those together. So I'm glad that people are enjoying them.
Perfect. Sounds good. Well, I enjoy reading them. That's for sure. So
great.
Thank you, everybody. And until next time, go Huskies. Woo!